We are live. That's right. Double duty because, well, we both were very lucky. We actually got to attend AEW All In at Wembley Stadium this past weekend. Over 81,000 fans in attendance in the United Kingdom. NXSteve holding up the scarf. They're just a bit of proof. I did get some merch, but unfortunately, it's extremely hot where I am. I've flown out of the UK now. I'm back in the Spanish Canary Islands, so it is very hot where I am at this particular moment. And I did manage to get out of the UK before all the airstrike problems, of course, on Monday morning. But we're going to be discussing AEW All In, just our sort of live experience, of course, from the show, perhaps maybe some of the matches, some of the moments as well, and just some of the stuff perhaps you didn't see on air, maybe things that we reacted to pretty well that didn't come through to translation on TV. I must admit, I've still not had the opportunity yet to see the show back. I'm looking forward to when we get to do so. But of course, we are now also on the road to AEW All Out, which leads to its own dramas like CM Punk, of course, which I'm sure is a big topic we'll talk about during the stream as well. Anyone wants to throw some comments in, feel free to do so. We'll answer them as best as we can. NXSteve, welcome back to the stream. Hope you are keeping well. Hope you're still keeping well after payback predictions. And yeah, AEW All In. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, man, fantastic show. I mean, for the money, even though I did buy 2 tickets, was still probably cheaper than I probably would have paid for a WWE show at Wembley Stadium. A fantastic show in general. It felt like it breezed by, which I think was the biggest relief. Like for 11 matches, a 4-hour show, even though we'd been in there since like 5 o'clock for obviously the pre-show or for 0 hour. Yeah, it just felt like it whizzed by, man. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed all the matches. Really, I can't say that there was a bad match on the card. Man, some of the stuff they put on, just a really, really great show.
Joe, I have to agree with you. And the thing that you said very early on there is that if you sit there and watch the show at home, obviously 5 hours is a long time. One of my big complaints when I do an AEW review is the show's so long. God, it's a really long time being there. But being there in attendance, it whizzed by. I felt like I was there for like a couple of hours before I realized it was like, oh, we're leaving Wembley. Like I thought I just got here. It was such a cool experience. And of course, you know, to even start the idea of obviously going to first time for me ever going to Wembley Stadium. Was it your first experience?
No, I've been lucky. I've been lucky enough to go to Wembley before. Most of the times I've been, though, it's been for the NFL games that normally come over. So I think I've been maybe 2 or 3 times before. So that's what I mean. I said to you before, even going there, that there isn't a bad seat in Wembley Stadium. Do you know what I mean? It's built in such a way that no matter where you sit, you get a great view of the stuff.
Yeah, you really do, and I've got to say, first experience for me, and I was very wowed from the get go. And I think one thing that really was fun for me as well was the idea of how easy it was to sort of find me seats as well. Obviously, walking along Wembley Way is a big 10-minute walk. Obviously, we took the train down there. Me and you, obviously, we met actually in the pub beforehand, and of course, I was there. I got tickets with my best friend, the best man at my wedding, James. Of course, he does this week in Metropolis. So the 3 of us took the train down together. We'd all eaten in the pub beforehand. Obviously, had a drink as well. Coming down then to Wembley, walking down Wembley Way, we came straight out from the tube, straight there with the All In sign immediately, obviously showing that we saw the likes of MJF, Saraya, Adam Cole, all bannered across there. You do the big long walk. There was merch stands everywhere, people everywhere as well. You couldn't find anyone in sight. If we'd have walked 2 steps ahead of one another, we probably would have lost each other.
Yeah, like I said, and it was compared to when I went to Clash, this was a lot more chilled and a lot more relaxed. Like when I went to Clash, it almost felt like it was kind of like a football match. Like some of the crowd were already like inebriated and completely out of their skulls. But no, man, this was really calm, really relaxed. Everyone was there for the same thing. So I know like wrestling has a bit of a stigma about it, but when you're there with 80,000 people and you're all there for the same reason, just a really nice environment. And yeah, apart from the fact that you obviously, the awkward part of where our seats were literally the back corners of the stadium from where you come in from Wembley Park. It was all good.
Absolutely. And of course, like you say there, obviously, I only got the opportunity to know that I was going to go to the show a couple of weeks beforehand. Obviously, things fell in place for myself. And obviously, you know, got to go there with James as well. You were booked from quite early on to go for this show, wasn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to get like I knew the seats weren't going to be stupidly expensive. Like they'd said that cheapest seats were going to be like 30 quid, and I thought to myself, well, do you know what? If I budget myself say £120, I can probably get a decent seat for that price. I didn't unfortunately manage to get my ticket on the pre-sale because they just went like hotcakes. But general sale come along, I bought a 30 quid ticket up in the rafters. I wasn't happy. Like, I bought it, and then I'd sat there and looked at the seating and how the stage was going to be laid out, and I went, do you know what? Let me see if I can find a better one. And luckily enough, I found one on the first tier, so it was 2 floors down, and it was like diagonally on from the main set and stuff. So for the sake of, I think I paid £55 for my second ticket. I paid £85 for 2 tickets. It was still cheaper than what I was initially going to pay anyway. So really, honestly said, you couldn't go wrong for the price you were paying.
Absolutely, and of course for myself, we're actually in tier 535, which is it's near the nosebleeds, but we're near the front of that tier at least. So it was actually quite a lot lower. When you start going up those stairs to go out of the stadium, you realise how high it actually went. But obviously, yeah, I mean, great value for money. Was very happy with the seats when first sitting there. Actually, was seeing things sighted on the ring. If you were watching from home, it was kind of that feeling of how you were watching. Everyone would face you when they were coming to the ring. Of course, the thing is, obviously, they're just a bit smaller than watching on the screen at home. But at the same time, you had the big screens above, so you need that attention to detail. It was there. But just a quick shout out to Tino's time in the house. He's with us, ladies and gentlemen. No matter what time you are in the world. In fact, All In started at a different time zone for a lot of people in the United States, and they checked their time. Do you know what they said it was? It's Tino's time. That was the time. That was the time it started. Tino, thank you for joining us. An American Nightmare, of course, who joined us earlier on, is now joining us once again. Thank you for doing so. Says, are you going next year? Of course, there was actually the announcement made at the very end of the show, which we'll just skip ahead to that part, because NXSteve, you'd already left Wembley at this point, wanted to beat the rush for the tube. I stupidly did not, so I stayed about. It took me an hour longer to get home, actually even just to leave Wembley. But of course, that announcement, I did get to see it live, where Tony Khan did his best impression, just going mental in the ring.
You'd be surprised. I saw the announcement on the walkway as I left. So I left as soon as the final bell went, and I walked down Wembley Way towards Wembley Park Stadium, and on the LED board that's just before the stadium, it come up All In 2024 August 25th or what it was, and I took a picture and sent it to Jonesy and went, wow, they've already announced next year's one. So I knew about 2 minutes later, but I just missed the initial announcement. But yeah, like I probably will end up going next year. I think Jonesy wants to go next year, so hopefully we can try and arrange that. Like I said, for the price I paid for the ticket, I've got no reason not to go back. Great wrestling. It was just unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, if you ask me now, do I want to go? Yes, I do. Could I commit to it this second? Well, I have to see how things will play out. But hopefully, when it comes to where tickets are released next year, I think this year they're released around April time. So we've got time to get things in place to see if it will be a potential to happen next year, and would be a lot of fun to do so. And of course, knew a lot of people that were at that show as well. So of course, there's a lot of faces that if they were all to go again, maybe you could actually sort out a meet out. You never know. But obviously, as well, we're going to ask the question here. Pounds into the exchange rate of dollars, Tino. Bear with us. We'll see if we can figure that out for you. We've got some Googling going on in the meantime for you, Tino, so do not worry about that. But certainly was a fun time all round. Of course, like we say, what was really good in our opinion, or certainly I would definitely come and say, I think speaking on behalf of both of us, is that I feel like we were given a really good card. I feel we were given an important card. I think sometimes when you see wrestling shows go overseas, you can turn and say, no, I would agree with people that say the build wasn't the strongest for this show. Granted, with some of that, I will say that some of the matches hadn't been so long well built. But for the stuff that we did get built, I mean, Adam Cole MJF was the hardest storyline in AEW going into this show. That was given to us there. They may still repeat that for All Out. We'll have the time will tell after Dynamite tonight. But when you look at it, we had some really big matches and moments. FTR versus the Young Bucks 3 was a really big match there. Stadium Stampede treated for Wembley as well. It felt like a very important show given to us, rather than saying, here's QT Marshall versus Hangman Adam Page, and there you go, that's your match for the night.
Yeah, I mean, I think for next year they're going to have to really announce something earlier. I think just the fact that this was the initial one, you could always knew that it was going to sell really well, regardless of what they put on. Like the fact that it sold 70,000 tickets before a match had even been announced. But it's a case of like, is it going to be a thing where All In is the only thing that they do in the UK every year, and it's going to be a case of right, well, it's going to probably make it more special because it's the only time they're going to be in the UK. But yeah, I'd like to say I think next year they need to if they're going to, when they announce the tickets or whatever, they need to announce maybe the main event or something for that show, just so people can like get an idea whether or not they're going or not next year.
It'll be interesting to see. Obviously, they sold so many tickets this year without any matches being announced, which is great for them. Of course, it's meant to be a paid attendance record. So obviously, we've seen the figures that are thrown from all wrestling companies. Some have give higher attendance figures, but this was meant to be the record of paid attendance. No people that have won competitions. No people that just put bums in seats. This was a paid
No free
attendance.
tickets.
Now, exactly. Now, did all of them show up? I'm not so sure, but obviously Wembley holds 90,000 people. But there's also the round the ring as well.
I think their attendance though was from people that showed up though, because like I said, I bought 2 tickets, and obviously my second ticket never got used. So I believe that attendance is physical people that showed up to the show. So that's the positive about it. It's not a case of, all right, well, we sold 85,000 and that's how many it is. That's a case of their attendance figure is how many people actually showed up.
Absolutely. The thing is, though, I mean, again, not having the opportunity to see this yet back, which I plan to do hopefully at some point this week. But obviously, you look at AEW and said to yourself, "Wow!" Like when you looked around that stadium, there was some empty seats, and I think it showed more in the early part of the evening. But I tell you what, as the show went on, I found myself like really encouraged. We were taking some videos going around again. Check out my Instagram if you want to see some of those videos. Just seeing like all these like firefly lights and all this stuff going around, you know, with the stadium, with the fan base. It felt like it was really busy in there.
Yeah. I mean, even things alone, like the music they were playing. Like at one point, they had Metallica playing, and the crowd were just randomly singing along to Metallica. And then, well, they were quite brave that they ended up playing. They ended up playing Cody Rhodes' music at one point as we was walking into the stadium, and I was like, Cody made it to All In as well, did he? And then there was someone else they played as well. I thought it was quite. It was someone else from WWE. I can't remember who it was, but someone else said they played it, and I thought, that's a bit of a touchy one to do. But no, it was. It was like I said. Once it got dark, and it was a case of you can't really see the empty seats anymore. It just looked like a full attendance, man. It was great.
Absolutely. Not that it mattered necessarily, because obviously, when you look at for example, Mercedes Moné being there, look, there was some people behind her, but she was obviously sitting in one of those seats, and obviously, maybe she's not counted with the attendance. I'm not sure, but she was invited to the show. But you know, she looked like perhaps maybe she had quite a bit around her that was empty. Stadium Stampede, obviously, that felt like that was by design. Obviously, Eddie Kingston and I'm going to say Cesaro for a minute, Claudio Castagnoli ended up about 90 degrees to me to the left, and I could see them sort of battling in the seats over there. And I felt like that would be on purpose, surely. You wouldn't have people there actually kind of like, well, there's people going to fight amongst you.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, with regards to Mercedes Moné, where she was in the boxes. So it's a case of most of the time, them boxes are owned by companies. So it's a case of if they do a corporate event, that's most of the time when they get used. But sometimes, like for example, I imagine that they just had Mercedes sit in those seats just for the spectacle that she was going to be on camera, and probably made it look like they didn't have anyone sit around her. But then again, those boxes as well, they have TVs in that, so you don't have to sit outside in the cold watching it. For example, if it's like, I don't know, it's the middle of December here and you're watching an England game, for example, it's the case of you can sit inside the boxes and they've got comfortable seats and they've got TVs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like, as for the Stadium Stampede, yeah, for the stuff that they were going to do, you'd expect that some sections were going to be cleared out for what they wanted to do with it. Plus, obviously, where the production crew is obviously there's a blanketed part where they don't have anyone seated because you can't see anything behind the TV cameras and whatever else that they're doing.
Absolutely, indeed, there, and you know, it just was a fun time all round. And just quickly, before I completely forget about Tino's question, did we actually get the pound exchange?
Yeah, so my first ticket, which was £30, was about $38, and then my second ticket, which was £55, works out to be just 3 cents shy of $70, $69.97, so $70 for a good seat.
So there you go. I think mine would be around a similar bracket to that second ticket you said there. Maybe a couple of dollars cheaper probably would be to be in the section that I was in. And yeah, it's I don't think it's bad value all around when you're being brutally honest. And of course we turn up and must be honest, I wasn't aware we missed the Miro Powerhouse Hobbs contract signing. Apparently it took place about an hour and 40 minutes. Yeah. An hour and 40 minutes before the show started, they did that. And apparently Simon Miller of What Culture was a part of the security guard teams in the ring, apparently. I've just seen pictures of that online.
That's awesome.
Quite fun. But obviously Jeff Jarrett, of course, that was before things had kicked off properly as well. Was
Grado getting his spot.
Absolutely great to get in this spot. Of course, moaning about World of Sport, moaning about British wrestling fans. Now that World of Sport failed, then it's all about the American market. And Grado, of course, was part of World of Sport coming and making that defense.
The tell you what though, Jeff Jarrett trying to say the W word is just so embarrassing because it's like unfortunately the Americans cannot say the W word very well. Like There's just no emphasis behind him. It almost sounds cartoonish, but it was hysterical, man.
And to be fair, he got it back in unison from everyone that was already in Wembley at the time. But yeah, you know, the crowd was very passionate throughout. And obviously, you go to that following buy-in match, the opening one, of course, MJF Adam Cole Aussie Open. It showed how important it was there to get early to the show because of the fact that you could miss a key ingredient. What would happen later in the evening?
Yeah, like I said, clever marketing ploy to have your headliners be the first match as well. Like, what a clever way to get people in seats, man. It's so clever. Well done by Tony Khan for that one. It was a touch of genius for that.
Absolutely, and I mean, obviously, if we're going to say what was the most important thing about a buy-in, of course, it was a kangaroo kick. And if you're enjoying the video right now, make sure to kangaroo kick that like button. It would do us a big favor here on this video.
Like it.
Absolutely, you can even do a boom on the subscribe button if you will, also just to support this channel. But hey, you never know. Trying to get better than you, baby, over using us here on this
double
channel.
Clothesline that subscribe button. Double clothesline.
Exactly. Absolutely. And, you know, could even double clothesline it by sharing with a friend as well. You know, that could be another way of doing it. But Tina says, fun fact, I never knew what's that? Not bad. Oh, that's not bad. What are you guys' favorite thing about the whole experience? I'd love to come to London sometime. Tino, you should do so, my friend. All In next year. You should come for All In. We'd love that. But what's your favorite thing about the experience?
Like I said, we've talked about fair before. There's a couple of things that I thought were a class touch. Sting getting his WCW entrance music was great. The crowd in general, I think it was unfortunately from what I've seen so far, what I've watched back on the broadcast, is because obviously Wembley is an open roof stadium, is that the crowd. I think the crowd's audience, like the noise that we made, suffered because. Me and Steve were talking, and we said that there was certain chants that, although were distasteful, but you just said you didn't hear one of them until you left the stadium. But yet, in my section, where one of these distasteful chants started, it was a case of wow, and it was a case you could hear it that the crowd was out of sync for most of it. I think that was just the worst point of the show. But yeah, apart from that, quality wrestling. Just said Saraya winning, Will Ospreay winning. Jericho singing Judas on the way to the ring. MJF's entrance was phenomenal. That main event was amazing. FTR, Young Bucks was amazing. Like I said, there was nothing. You couldn't put a foot wrong with this show from start to end. A solid, consistent show.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is, when you said the whole experience as well, I mean, the whole experience for me, obviously, I got to fly in for this show. Obviously, I'm not in the UK living there. So despite the fact that I was born there and the fact to actually fly in, obviously, I got to spend time with, like I said, the best man at my wedding. James, got to spend a couple of days with him, got to spend time with my friends that I grew up with, going to school with as well. So shout out to Mark, to Ryan, to Jason, if they ever come to see this as well. And, you know, it just a really fun time spending time with them for the first day that I was there. Obviously seeing, NXSteve, of course. We all, like I said, we all at the pub before going on the train down, obviously getting to spend time together. Of course, myself, James, and NXSteve actually going to Wembley, discussing what we were looking forward to most. I mean, those stuff that's sort of quite special when you think about it. And obviously for me, I've not been on the tube for the London trains for quite a while. Forgot how noisy it was. Won't lie to you. Yeah, I've not missed much. I'll be honest with you. Certainly on the way back, I definitely thought I'd not missed much either. I'll be honest, on the way home, that was full, that train. But I've got to say that those things are great little touches. Walking Wembley Way for me, but I've always wanted to go to Wembley Stadium. I've had the luxury to go to Wembley Arena as a young child, going to like WWE Rampage shows in the 90s. But yeah, this was really, really cool to go and be a part of this, and just to go and get the awe of that stadium, and like you said there, to get to hear the fan reactions. Yeah, there were some out of sync moments, but obviously going in show, like to see certain wrestlers you've never seen live, for me is always a special part. I've never seen CM Punk live in the wrestling ring before, and of course I was one of about 4 people in our section that did cheer CM Punk on, unaware of what was going on backstage before.
Me too.
Yeah, so we got 2 CM Punk fans here of about 80,000 people that were not. So yeah, it was a fun time. But for me, like you said, Sting's music was a real highlight. I loved Jericho's entrance with the Fozzy stuff, and I was
amazing.
I've put the video on Instagram.
His whole Queen thing he did, and then obviously the Young Bucks doing a Queen-based ring gear as well was amazing.
Absolutely, there's so many great moments. If I had to pick one, I mean, like, It's hard to say, man. It's really hard to say. I mean, well, seeing the two Brits, Will Ospreay and Saraya, obviously was good. Seeing them win, like you say, was good. I love the feel good factor with Saraya, with her family being in the ring. Obviously, the story they played throughout that match, I thought was fun. Will Ospreay for me I still think he's the best wrestler in the world right now. I think that was, I think him and Jericho blew my expectations of what I expected the match to be. I had it at a good bar, but I would say that I thought this match would have perhaps been better 2 or 3 years ago. But I thought Jericho did a phenomenal job of this match with a great story. The main event was incredible. I thought the main event was really, really good.
Unreal.
And of course, FTO and the Bucks I thought was amazing as well. And there was a few moments in the show. I'm not usually that guy that pops to 2 counts. I'm not. I can see when a 2 or 3 count is coming a lot of the time. But I must admit, I found myself doing it. I was doing it.
FTR Young Bucks match, 100%, man. When the Bucks hit the Shatter Machine, I was like, no way are we going to get a pinfall here with the Shatter Machine. And yeah, unreal, man. Just I didn't realize how much I popped until I went to a Rev Pro show and I watched some of the crazy stuff those guys did. And when you see them do this mad stuff and you get a 2 count and you don't realize after you went, oh my God, I'm a proper mark here and I'm proper popping for stuff like a proper mark. But no, man, it was fantastic.
It was awesome, yeah. It's Stormbreaker, I think, Will Ospreay's move. It's the first time he hit it, and I do have myself recorded because I thought it was going to be the 3 count, and I managed to catch him hitting the move. And then all of a sudden, you just hear me, whoa, and he actually kicks out. So, yeah, it's quite fun. I did take some videos as well of some of the entrances, and I've got to say, you can hear me singing pretty badly on those if you check out Instagram as well. Fozzy probably being one of them, and CM Punk being another. Do you think CM Punk has quit AEW? Obviously, this is not really a part of our experience, but certainly something that's been a big talking point coming out of it. Of course, we had Brawl Out. We've now had Brawl In. Suspensions are all about by the look of it. Or being handed out for CM Punk. It seems to be the second time he's going to be done after one of these all shows. How do we see it going down? Obviously, Jungle Boy Jack Perry had said about the broken glass and Crimey River, obviously being in the stands. Didn't have a clue he'd said that or anything like that. So it was all news to me. Everything that happened seemed to be, only aware of it at the end of the show. Certainly had no idea of it in Wembley.
Yeah, I think, like I said, luckily enough, I think we were lucky in that way because it didn't ruin our value of the show. Do you know what I mean? Like, for the fact that that's obviously the weirdest thing about whenever you go to watch wrestling live is no commentary. Is such a strange thing that you don't really realize it until the first time you go and watch a live event. But yeah, it's just a shame, man. I mean, you don't obviously it's one of the things where we don't know the full story. We don't know what's been said because it's a case of there was reports coming out about apparently Miro confronted Punk, but then it turns out that they were squashed because it was actually from a friendly banter dynamic that Miro spoke to Punk. So yeah, I mean, hopefully he's not done. Like I said, it almost feels like he should. I hate to say it, but he really needs to avoid certain people and try and not be a locker room leader, which he seems to kind of force upon himself, which we got that even from his WWE days, that he would try and force himself on everyone as a locker room leader. I think it's just a case of he just needs to turn up, do his stuff and go home, because his match with Samoa Joe was the weirdest CM Punk match I've ever seen. It was really almost indie show based. It was a kind of strange thing for me to sit there and watch. The fact that you had Joe just Punk would throw himself over the top ropes with a tope and Joe would just walk out the way. And I was amazing. This very indie show stuff going on here, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And like I said, I think if Punk's just a case of he just shows up, does his work and then goes home, I think he'll be okay. And like I said, we do unfortunately need to see Punk versus MJF to see who is the real AEW World Champion.
Time will tell if it all works out or not. Obviously, we can't speculate on what will or won't have happened from the fallout of All In. But if what is believed to have happened is true, we will see some of that fallout through Dynamite tonight and Collision, of course, this Saturday. It'll be more clearer with CM Punk when it comes to Collision if he's not in attendance and no matches booked for Chicago.
Just as well, I know that Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, because he doesn't go about it anymore. I don't know the guy personally, but from what we get from the dirt sheets and even what he said, to be fair, when he done an interview with someone and said that when he called someone what's the other version of a cat's name? Begins with a P.
Yeah.
And then had a T-shirt made up for it, and he got in quite a lot of trouble for it. And like they basically said to him, "Don't do it again." And it's kind of like it almost seems like he's digging himself a hole. I don't know the full details, but it's like, dude, you're in the greatest position. You're 20-something years old. You're in like the second biggest company wrestling wise in the world. You just do your stuff and get on with it, man. I know obviously Punk shouldn't really be giving you advice, but then is his advice really that bad that it needs to be confrontational? Do you know what I mean? And it's like I said, he's in such a good position. I just hope he doesn't mess himself up for it, because I believe both of them have been suspended at this point as well for it.
That seems to be the case. I mean, to be fair, if it's the fact that Jack Perry wanted to use real broken glass, I don't really see the logic in that. I do see why people would take exception to that, whether it's Punk, whether it's Tony Schiavone, whether it's other people in management. I can see why they have a problem with it. And obviously, the match with Jack Perry and Hook was really, really good. Of course, the car spot, and he's saying it's real glass, cry me a river. It's what it is. But the match was really, really good. Hook winning, of course, the FTW Championship back. The Punk stuff happened. I've got to say, I really enjoyed the CM Punk match. I thought it was really fun. I thought that him and Joe looked like he was lapping it up with all the Joe chants and stuff, and the way he was sort of like hopping around the ring, and the fact that CM Punk was put through the table, that looked quite brutal as well. And the fact that this became basically, CM Punk was being booed so much, he became those people that were always being booed in the time when they're supposed to be faces. The ideas of the Hogans, the John Cenas, and he even did what was like a pedigree of the second rope to get the victory. I thought that was a really fun touch.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was a very indie show based match for me, and it was kind of like, I don't know if this is something that they used to do back in the ROH days when they used to initially wrestle, but like I said, I was thoroughly entertained. It was such a weird dynamic, and the fact that I've had the privilege to watch this one back on repeat on the production, and the fact that we get a commentary make a reference to Samoa Joe playing Sweet Tooth in the new Twisted Metal show, I thought another little touch of class there by I believe it was Excalibur that said it.
Absolutely, indeed. There, and obviously, American Nightmare says, I'm still intrigued about RH titles being involved at an 80,000 people show. I mean, that can only be good for Ring of Honor.
100%. It's just a case of, I've said before on previous streams that they need to either start doing more YouTube clips of ROH, because putting them behind a paywall at the minute just seems to be like, unfortunately, hurting the brand more than anything else. But hey, we had the IWGP United Kingdom Championship on this show as well. Let's not forget, people.
Absolutely, indeed. Well, Ospreay, indeed. But quickly, just before we do it, we'll quickly run through the shows and give very quick thoughts. And obviously, Konosuke Takeshita picking up a victory over Kenny Omega in that six-man tag team match involving Bullet Club Gold with Takeshita and, of course, Hangman Adam Page, Kota Ibushi, the Golden Elite. I was quite surprised by that, because you had a Juice Robinson right there to take the pinfall to give the Golden Elite the win. But at the same time, Takeshita, this is a great way to prove he's on Kenny Omega's level. It was a very clever piece of booking, and it's led to that singles match for All Out. All in all, I think that was a good job really from TK there on that booking.
We said on the pre-show, I said on the pre-show specifically that I was really impressed with how Takeshita's performing in ring recently. So what a way to build him up more is to get him a pinfall win over Kenny Omega at an 80,000 capacity pay-per-view. It's unreal, and it will only do wonders for him, man. So really excited to see what they do with him going forward.
Absolutely. Puts his name on the map. Certainly, Newman Cole says that was awesome. I have to agree, indeed. It was awesome, indeed. And like you say, it was a very clever piece of booking. And was also a very good six-man tag team match. I felt more like a Dynamite main event, if I'm being honest, but it was in the second match of the show. Kind of made sense. Just feels a little bit, though, people that have problems with CM Punk. Obviously, Jack Perry was the match before. Kenny Omega and Hangman Page were in the match after. I thought it was always going to be a recipe for disaster, but that's just my take on it anyway. But obviously...
Yeah.
When you talk about
it's just a way to get Kenny on the pay-per-view, unfortunately. I think it was the safest bet, and it's kind of like, you can't have this pay-per-view not have Kenny Omega on it.
You have to have him on it. It just makes so much sense to do so. Obviously, one of the big reasons that All In was a thing to begin with in the first place. But the Young Bucks also being another one of those, against FTR, the trilogy. We've already talked about it. For us, that's one of the matches of the night.
Yeah, and then obviously the heel turn by the Bucks at the end is always an interesting thing coming out of it. So it's going to be fun to see what they do with that. But yeah, the FTR just establishes themselves as a great tag team, and just a simply fantastic tag team match. Like it's hard for me to decide between that and the main event as match of the show for me.
Absolutely. I don't know how much focus was put on Matt Jackson actually on TV, but it did look like he had carried a bit of an injury towards the end of the match, and it looked like he was struggling to get to the back. Do you reckon it was just good selling, or do you reckon there's something legit there?
Hey, he's done it before, so you never know with Matt Jackson. It could be 50 of one, half of another. So again, another thing we have to wait and see on what happens when Dynamite.
Absolutely. I think we have a good idea tonight with that, but certainly it was an incredible match. And just the way they played through the sequences as well, how Cash Wheeler lost that first match with the springboard 450, and they did that moment again. And like you mentioned earlier, the fact that the Bucks hitting the Shadow Machine, you just see all these different moments where you think to yourself, God, like it literally was the edge of the seat for that match. And at that point was definitely match of the night for sure.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean. I think the main event just getting caught up in it, but it was just like from a wrestling point of view, just unreal. Like the near falls and like I said, popping like I'm a proper mark is just one of them things.
Absolutely. Now, this is where I might start getting losing the match order a little bit, but I believe Standing Stampede was next.
Yeah, could be. Go for it, man.
Absolutely. For me, it was the hardest match to follow on the show purely because it was everywhere. But at the same time, for what you could follow, I certainly thought it was a lot of fun, and there was certainly some big spots in the match as well. And I think the biggest surprise for me was the fact that actually Orange Cassidy, the best friends, and they all Penta, they all won. Eddie Kingston, they won the match, which I had the BCC and Santana Ortiz picking up the W in that one. But it looks like we could be getting Orange Cassidy versus John Moxley at the next show. And of course, Moxley being Moxley, of course, he has to bleed during that and do some 6 spots in that match. Probably not for everyone, that Stadium Stampede match, but certainly it was actually quite fun to see in attendance.
I thought they set up Penta and Orange Cassidy at the end of this match.
They did, and the winner of that will take on John Moxley this Sunday.
Right, okay.
They've actually announced
okay.
so.
Yeah, no, I predicted this is just because it's Orange Cassidy and it's like it's best friends and it's Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston's such a fan favorite, but yeah, it's a Stadium Stampede. It's like the fact that where Moxley and the BCC all come out of was like the section in front of me. So I know I'm like literally like 30 feet away from them where they come out was cool in itself. And like watching all the floor seats just empty where people were bum rushing the security trying to get to them was just a great dynamic itself. But yeah, this one was obviously the hardest one that was going to come across because it's here, there, and everywhere. And like some of it went backstage into the parking lot on the underground roadways that they've got underneath Wembley, and like it's a case of it was always going to be the most awkward one to watch. But hey, it's a Stadium Stampede match. It was gory, it was bloody. We had I believe it was Penta stick all those plastic wooden spears on top of John Moxley's head again, and it was like it's just exactly what you expected from a Stadium Stampede match.
Absolutely, indeed, there, and you've hit a lot of the key ingredients on the head there with that one. Obviously, with some of those things when they went backstage, the only way we were aware of it was actually when it came up on the screen for us. Obviously, we were not following like that, but obviously seeing Eddie Kingston and Claudio a 90-degree angle, like in one of the stands, it was just a bit like, is one of them going to go flying off? James was saying to me, one of them's coming off of that because it looked like underneath it was like black sort of covering over some of the seats. Where it felt like it was like some padding may have been put along that, so they could have done a spot had they wanted to, but that wasn't to be the case in the end. But certainly was fun nonetheless. And of course, the next match, which is Saraya winning the women's championship, of course, was that feel good factor. Of course, Tony Storm hitting Saraya's mum in ringside and not meaning to, of course, to do so, but that led to are you going to apologize for that? And of course, that led to pretty much the break and demise of what was going to be the outcast. Obviously, Ruby Soho coming out getting a smack for a trouble from Tony Storm, but in the end, it looked like that Britt Baker was going to get the win with a lockjaw thing, but Saraya getting the pinfall victory to get the championship there. I'm hoping actually will be Saraya versus Shida as a rematch, or the former champion getting the match here at All Out. There could be a grounds that it could be Tony Storm with the breakout of the outcast, but also Britt Baker was close to winning, so it could be her as well. So it leaves a very open door for that women's division of what they'll do. But for that feel good moment, Saraya winning felt like it was the right move for me. 80,000 people really was on side with this.
You said this in the predictions that obviously British talent. I was kind of like, I couldn't see both Will Ospreay and Saraya winning both. Like, I thought one of them had to lose, and I just thought it'd be Saraya. But then I suppose everything that Saraya went through with her career, obviously having the neck injury, told that they can't really wrestle again. I suppose it's just I was expected, and obviously she comes out with her mum and her dad and her brothers who are also wrestlers, and yeah, man, it was a nice spot for them to see. I know it's the only women's match on the card, but it was kind of like it was still a special moment for being a sub 10-minute match. It was still pretty good, and like I said, I'm interested to see where it goes. From what I hear, it's supposed to be Britt Baker versus Saraya for the women's title. So again, we'll see where that goes on TV and stuff. But just a wholesome moment. Yeah, that really anyone should have predicted that Saraya was going to win.
Even if it's a short run as the women's champion, it just
Yeah.
to see where Saraya had come from with her career, she thought it was finished. The fact that she could come back like a Bryan Danielson, like a Adam Copeland, you know, to be able to do that and come back and do what you love, and to actually come home in, you know, a massive show, 80,000 people, and
Yeah.
then to go and win the championship, it writes itself. It's something like she can only have dreamed
absolutely.
of that. To get that moment, it's a reality. It's real. You know, think of everything that girl's been through. Like that's just something that girl's deserved. And I'm really happy for her, I've got to say. Even if it's a short run as champion, I'm pleased she has that moment. She always can hold on to that.
She'll still have always had that moment.
Absolutely. And there's going to be disaster for the Outcast. Noob, you are so right. And do you know what? I can't wait to watch it play out on our TV sets. It's going to be awesome. Maybe it could even be for the TBS Championship. We'll see how it will go along. But American Nightmare says Outcast triple threat match could be an option too. Certainly could be. Ruby Soho will be going for the TBS Championship this Sunday against Chris Statlander. Because there's a lot of Joshi wrestling fans are pretty much upset that she'd have lost. It seems that Tony Khan doesn't know how to book Joshi wrestlers. I mean, obviously, like I said, Takeshita got a big win on this show. So, I mean, I wouldn't say, you know, like, you know, I know that it can be different from the men's side there to the women's. Women's wrestling gets a lot of stick there. She'd obviously had her time where she didn't have the championship in front of fans, and obviously saw a lot of critique with that. At least now, this time, it was a short reign as champion, but she got to walk out in the biggest show possible. Like, say she didn't have it in front of fans, she got in front of 80,000 people on that entrance. And I think that's something that that's probably a nod from Tony Khan because of the fact of saying thank you for the work you did before. Because although this wasn't a long run, and I understand that fans would be upset, maybe the direction here is for different wrestlers to be holding that championship. But he found a spot of saying, well, rather than Saraya taking this championship from Tony Storm, let's get it from Shida, and then we can play to the Outcast stuff later. And obviously then Shida still gets that moment of holding that championship going into that big show in front of fans. So that's my take from it. But certainly people were entitled to their opinion of how they feel about it.
Yeah, no, like you've pretty much summed it up. But like I said, the both WWE and AEW recently have had a stigma about their women's wrestling and how they've booked it, and it's a case of it's the best of a worst case scenario, unfortunately.
Absolutely. What would you think about the theme songs, by the way? Saraya coming out to We Will Rock You, and Tony Storm, I think, came out to like God Save the Queen as well. Like it was.
That was like I understand. Like I believe Tony Storm's Australian, isn't she? And it's like I understand that obviously they're still under the British Empire and stuff like that. And it was kind of like such a weird one for me. Like didn't understand it, but okay, I'll dig it. I mean, it's. Like I remember one guy turned around to me and gone, "Oh my god, the Queen's back!" And I was like, "Well, chill, fella." Like the Queen was going to be in this fatal four-way, but no, the Queen won for Saraya. Quality, man, touch of class. It was like it just seemed to be there was a lot of Freddie Mercury themed stuff with a lot of entrances tonight, and it was like it's expected when it's in Wembley.
Absolutely. And speaking of entrances, I must admit, Swerve's entrance got me banging in the stands. I was probably dancing along to Swerve's one. Always gets me going. But we mentioned Sting and Darby Allin, for me, one of my favorite entrances of the whole show for that coffin match. Obviously, like you said, Metallica. I believe it's
Seek and Destroy.
Seek and Destroy. That's the song. Yeah, incredible. Obviously, was one of Sting's WCW themes as well. Yeah, got to say that the coffin match for me wasn't the match I was necessarily looking forward as much to going into the show, but I just watching it. It's just so much fun.
Oh, it was, but it was hard hitting as well. Like when Darby does the coffin drop on that casket, and I'm like, oh my god, this kid is trying to put himself in an early grave. It was unreal. Just some, even moments like Sting using the bat to save himself from the casket closing, and Swerve using his fingers, and I was like, quality little touches, man. Like normally a coffin matches, I tend to find just a really kind of like. They're boring up until the point that they use the coffin. So, like for instance, in WWE, it's kind of like 90% is wrestling, 10% is the coffin. Whereas with AEW, the coffin just seemed to be the theme throughout, and I much more appreciated this, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Absolutely, I feel the same. Should Swerve have still been in the match though, with his dreads hanging out of the coffin at the finish?
On the technicality, I suppose so. Maybe it would have been a clever way to sort of carry the match on slightly, that his dreadlocks stop him.
Absolutely, but no, it certainly was a fun time, and obviously Sting, just being crazy as well. Obviously, a couple of spots to get through the table as well at one point was quite cool. Got a big pop from the crowd there.
But yeah, like I said to you on the predictions, Sting was always going to win this, because having Sting win on the biggest show ever, aka WrestleMania WWE, and not having him win is the dumbest move to do. So although it was predictable, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I thoroughly enjoyed it as well there. And obviously that follows then with two fantastic entrances. Obviously, we mentioned already, loving the live stuff with Fozzy. You can hear me sing it really badly on Instagram now if you want to. But at the same time, like, brilliant stuff. Just hearing the whole crowd sing along with it, just being, we watch it on TV each and every week and seeing the arenas do it. Kind of, I always get a little bit jealous. Think, oh, that'd be great fun to be amongst that live, to actually be amongst it live and seeing so many people sing along. And, just, it felt really, really special. I didn't even notice Sammy Guevara was out there till halfway through the match. Put it that way, I was singing so much.
It was one of the only times through the night where the crowd were in sync singing his entrance, and it was amazing. Like I said at the start, with the roof and the crowd being out of sync with chants and stuff like that. But as soon as Jericho starts playing starts playing Judas, the whole crowd is in it, and it's amazing. And even Will, to get his, I don't know, apparently like his ring entrance music is apparently copyrighted in the States or something, so he can only use this music in the UK and in Japan. So to get that entrance music as well, it was quality as well.
Absolutely, and just to see what else we do, full out Dynamite Kid with his ring gear as well, and I love just the story of that match, also how it played out. See what else be like. That kid that Jericho told to calm down at the start of the match, doing that insane spot off the top rope, the corkscrew moonsault to the floor, and obviously Jericho then doing that sort of German suplex on the ring apron, hardest part of the ring, which that just showed almost to the point of like Jericho saying, "Look, proven right here. I should take you out. And you're going to break your neck," sort of thing. Before Will Ospreay proving he was the better wrestler, and Jericho telling him to finish him. For me, this was a match that I just loved the storytelling of it. I thought it was really clever from start to finish.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not Will Ospreay's like most 5-star match that he's ever going to have. Surprisingly, he's had quality matches with Shingo Takagi, Okada, and Kenny Omega recently in the last 6 months. I don't know whether it's due to Jericho's age and like obviously his in-ring ability. Like, I'm not going to criticize Jericho. He's on my Mount Rushmore. But like I said, like you said before we started this, or earlier in the show, sorry, if we'd have maybe got this match in 2019, it probably would have been even better than what it already was, which we like what we got. So, but yeah, it was just, I said, it was just a fantastic match. And like Will Ospreay, you've said, I've said, everyone said, like, Wrestler of the Year, has 5-star matches for fun. Like, this can only project him on a higher level now. And for anyone out of interest, go and watch Cultaholic, because Jack does an interview with Will after the Rev Pro show from Saturday night, and he talks about his interactions with Jericho, the phone calls that he's had with him, and also about his contract stipulation as well, because obviously his deal's up in 6 months' time.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the thing is, it's going to be interesting to see what it's going to land after this. Whether we remain in New Japan, whether we end up in AEW. But I mean, of course, either way, when it comes to it, I mean, he's the best wrestler in the world right now. There's no taking away from it. Like you said, 5-star matches are fun. Yeah, this is not a 5-star match, but I tell you what, it's probably the most important match of his career, to do it in front of 80,000 people, and to get that win as well. That was really, really special. American Nightmare quickly asking, do you think that Jericho and Sammy are breaking up soon? Looks like it. I thought Sammy was going to turn on Jericho, but it looks like Jericho did the push first.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I don't know. Like, it's gonna be fun to see how that one plays out, especially from how Garcia and Sammy walked out on Jericho the other week in the tag team match. So yeah, it's a case of I'm interested to see where it goes. I'd like to see a Sammy versus Jericho match in the future. Like, hopefully that's where we get to.
Feels like it's teasing that it's coming, so I think that we will get it. I still think Sammy Guevara should join Don Callis. I think that would be a good way to do it, but we'll see. Jericho obviously was the heel in London. Will he be the heel now we're back in the States? That's going to be the big question going into All Out this weekend. And just very quickly, we had, you said, people walking out on Jericho just recently. Daniel Garcia not on this show. Is it a bit of a disappointment we didn't get a bit of Daniel Garcia dancing?
It depends if you enjoy it or not. What did I watch recently? I watched AEW put out a 2-hour video of the whole MJF Adam Cole story, which by the way is fantastic. Go and watch it. But they have Garcia. They have the Garcia and Guevara match against MJF and Adam Cole, and his dancing is just they have a dance off, and it's so obnoxious, and it's like, oh my god. It probably would have been entertaining, but very, very cringe.
Absolutely. For me, obviously, I want Daniel Garcia to go back to being like the pure wrestler that he was beforehand. But if he is to continue the dancing gimmick, I was hoping he'd be a part of this show because I want to start fandangoing. That's what I want people to start doing when they see it. I want to do the I think it'd be awesome. I think fans should be doing that for Daniel Garcia going forward if he's going to continue the dancing gimmick. But I suppose time will tell on that. But we'll move on in the meantime. Of course, Billy Gunn and the Acclaimed won the Trios Championships in the House of Black. Probably the most surprising result on the night for me, if I'm going to be honest with you. But I suppose it made sense in another way. But first off, that rap from Max Caster, obviously. We'll just say that rap, probably the safest thing to keep us out of trouble. But I must admit, I did pop for it.
You weren't the only one, man. I think everyone popped for it. We can talk about the fact that he called them Ron, Hermione, and Harry. Like, obviously,
yes,
that was quite hilarious. It was the initial one that was kind of like, oh, okay. It's a good thing this is on pay-per-view, because if this was on TV, that one would have been a no-go, I think.
Yeah, there's possibly, yeah. I don't think they were watching, so I think they'll probably get away with it. But at the same time, like House of Black have been, for me, they've been very dominant trios champions, but a losing effort here. Obviously, the feel-good moment for Billy Gunn, but it's a smart way of using your legends as well. This is not just destroying your younger talent. This is a smart way of putting it over. But at the same time, I think that it's fun to see that Acclaimed Billy Gunn here, trios champions, a fresh direction for those championships. Give House of Black something different to do. Maybe they can go for the tag titles instead. What do you see going forward for this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'd like to see Malachi Black involved in the main event scene. I think him as an opponent for MJF in some aspect, I think would be great. It just depends on what they do with MJF's character, like, and how this whole Adam Cole story is going to finish out. But yeah, the possibilities are endless for House of Black. They need to, I don't know, maybe step away from a title for the foreseeable future and do something more character driven, I think, for me.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely to just expose a bit more of what they are, I think would be quite good. And like we say, in the meantime, for the others, there's plenty of trios they can be going taking on in the meantime. So it does keep things fresh in AEW. Well, certainly, though, House of Black could always go and win those championships back, although it did feel like it just handed the titles over, which took away a bit of the mystique of House of Black, if we're being honest, in my opinion. But at the same time, I sort of thought was a nice touch. But as Temple Plays said, he's not with us at the second, but obviously with the Fireflies and the Bray style entrance as well. He said there was like a bit of tribute to Bray Wyatt going on there, so that was really, really nice to see as well. A very, very touching, moving moment. But going into the main event, let's talk about MJF Adam Cole. Obviously, the longest match on the show, 29 minutes. These two told a terrific story of being, best buds, tag team champions, to where, slowly the cracks appeared really between the two of these. Adam Cole was the one getting booed quite heavily from the crowd. The crowd was very much into MJF. But of course, for a lot of the time, both of these guys had the chance to cheat. And it felt like they found it a bit difficult to do so. A number of moments where they kind of just were conflicting with themselves. Was it worth winning this match over costing the friendship? And of course, it led to initial double clothesline, double pinfall. And this led to "this is BS" chants from the crowd. I wonder if you were one of those.
Very much so, man. I booed hard when we got that double pinfall. I was like, no way are we finishing a pay-per-view with that kind of... That crowd would have rioted if it had finished like that.
Yeah, they were very clever but then they got to repeat the story of how this story started. And Cole said 5 more minutes. And look, for the one time we get to swear here, because I can paraphrase MJF by saying it. He said, look, we're not going to do this for 5 minutes. No, is the answer. He said no the first time, but not 5 minutes. We're going to do this as long as it takes. We're going to have a winner at fucking Wembley. He literally went for it. And I've got to say, not often you hear me do it, but if it's paraphrasing, it's allowed. Ultimately, that got a massive pop, one of the biggest pops of the night as well, there, didn't it?
Arguably one of the biggest stories in wrestling at the minute. Like I said, I went back and watched the 1 hour, like 45-minute like story, and it basically showed everything, all their interactions ever since this first started, like from when they were hating each other to becoming a tag team, and then surprising each other with merch and new ring music, and like going to eat spicy food together, and MJF saying that he hates poor people, and then going to the trampoline park where he plays dodgeball, and MJF is just wiping out children with a dodgeball, and then the whole thing with the tag team tournament and the dance off against Garcia and Guevara. It's like to culminate in such a way at Wembley was just simply fantastic. I mean, Roddy getting involved as well adds a new a dynamic for him to play off to coming out of the show. But just a simply fantastic match. The entrances alone, like MJF coming out in his devil persona with that orchestral version of his music, was simply fantastic. And the Adam Cole music just playing out of nowhere. So no one, unfortunately, recorded the whole entrance because, they just dropped it on us like that. But yeah, it was simply amazing, man. Like I said, the finish, but I've gone back and seen what happened after the match and the hug and everything, and just, man, what a great way. And I think they've done it justice in the way that this will still carry on now, and it's kind of, this isn't the end of the story. I think was the right move for me, and I want to see this play out more.
Yeah, like you said there, it was very good because obviously once you continue that match, first off, we had more of that conflicting moments because we had two referee spots that the referee was knocked down there. Obviously, the first one, then we got the Eddie Guerrero style steel chairs. Obviously, Adam Cole throwing himself down. MJF doing one better, said, "I'll put it over my head then and go down." I thought that was amazing. But at the same time, I'm like, don't you dare call for a DQ! Don't you dare call for a DQ!
Yeah, don't you dare.
Yeah, that didn't happen, thankfully. I guess MJF saying that we're having a winner, then we'll carry it on. But at the same time, the second one was the Panama Sunrise. I mean, Adam Cole probably could have stopped that from happening. You have moments to decide to not do that to a referee, but it is what it is. And that led to then the Roddy Strong stuff. Absolutely momentum. But then, like you said, we had the Roddy Strong stuff. He got involved there, low blowing MJF, which Adam Cole didn't see, but then tried to get the championship belt in. Adam Cole conflicted again, choosing not to do what Roddy Strong wanted to do, and that led to MJF then picking up that obviously small package pinfall for the win. Adam Cole really annoyed afterwards of himself because he thought perhaps maybe I should have done this, maybe I shouldn't have listened to Roddy. If I'd have just done my own thing, maybe I would have got the win. But like you said, it delays everything another week, and Roddy Strong really upset with the idea that he didn't get someone to pick a side. I'm wondering what storytelling that's going to lead going forward, because I think we're going to get a rematch of MJF and Adam Cole, and I think it's quite dumb.
Yeah, plus the fact that you've now got these ROH tag team titles involved as well, and obviously the Kingdom are part of ROH. I think it's, again, another interesting dynamic that will play into this story further down the line.
Absolutely, indeed, and it's going to be very exciting, but a very good way to end the show. Like I said, the big hug there at the end. They still can coexist after all of that, and it felt like, for me, it felt like a good feel-good ending for a show that was played out, because we were expecting someone to turn, but it turned out that this night didn't need that turn, in my opinion.
Yeah, this was purely to be the greatest spectacle and to send fans home knowing that you've just watched 4 or 5 hours of great professional wrestling.
Absolutely, and I think that they did a fantastic job in doing that. Newcastle to imagine a right in Wembley. Well, if that double clothesline had stood, you might not have had to imagine a lot, but yeah, glad that it didn't come out that way. And American Nightmare says the match was good. I think they should have ended the story in the big stadium show. Instead, it looks like it's going to be continued. Does look like it will go into All Out this Sunday, but of course, with those shows being so close, you need to have a reason to follow something over to the next week, which you did very clever with a number of the matches on this show. I think that was something that made this quite good, because we had quite a lot of storyline narrative to go and look forward to after the show, rather than simply being that's it, that's the end.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I don't think we're going to get a culmination to this until at least Full Gear. I think that there's still more, like I said, with the ROH tag team titles involved now. I think that these two, like, I'm expecting at some point for MJF to walk out of this as the babyface and Cole to walk out as the heel. That seems to be the dynamic they're going with. And yeah, I think, like I said, I think Full Gear at the earliest is probably the final destination for this.
Could very well be. I may go with Arthur Ashe Stadium. I believe they have that in between. But yeah, I mean, Full Gear could be the one. It's going to be interesting to see how they're going to play out between now and then. There's still a lot of destinations before we get to 2024. Of course, MJF still making claims that he may do what he wants to do when it comes to that time. But American Nightmare does say many ref bumps. I feel like I was watching a Roman Reigns match. I do like that indeed there. But I feel like it worked. I feel like it all made sense in the end. I feel like that it worked for me watching it as a match. It was one of my favorite matches on the show.
You know, the best part is like, you can tell with AEW whatever referee is in the ring is, you know, the chances of there being a ref bump are more likely. Like, if Aubrey's in the ring, no ref bumps. But yeah. I forget the guy who was in the main event. Like he's like the comical referee that always takes a ref bump, and it's like, yeah, I'm expecting one at some point.
Did you see the way he was doing the pinfall as well at one point? Just kind of like, oh, and just stayed.
And he was dead.
Yeah, just for like ages. That was hilarious. I
It's
found that
great.
really funny.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. So all in all, AEW All In, obviously, it's hard to give a comparison of the two shows at this point because obviously, when you turn around and say like watching it live or watching it from home, you've watched some of it again, but not all of it. I haven't watched any of it yet, but from a live experience, what would you give this out of 10?
I'm gonna have to say 10. I think if you take everything into account, the cost, two, the time, and the fact that it breezed by. I mean, for me, getting home wasn't a problem. I was home within an hour, so I was quite lucky. It's a stadium show, so like food and drink, are going to be stupidly expensive. So as long as you go in prepared and eat beforehand, not a problem. So for me, I'd have to say a 10. I mean, what a great show, man! Great weekend, and I'm really glad I went. Like if I when you see stuff happen before, and you're like, man, you had the opportunity to go to a show, and you'd been like, I really wish I'd gone. Like Clash, I'm really glad I came. So for me, it's a 10 for me.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like I said, it was so close to where I thought I wasn't going to be able to go to this show, and something just fell into place at the last minute. Very fortunate I could go to the show, and obviously to watch a show with my best mate next to me as well, obviously, and knowing that you were in the stadium as well, we could keep in touch throughout the show, even though we were at different sides of the stadium. It just was for me was there was a lot of special things about this that made me feel I was really glad I was there. Obviously, it becomes I suppose a personal experience rather than just being, watching a wrestling show. So of course, yeah, looking at it, look, I'm going to be biased. It's 10. It's even an 11. I think this is the best AEW pay-per-view since All Out 2021. I think it's the best show they've done in 2 years. I know I'm biased, but I don't care. I feel that the match quality, like you say, was good. I think for 5 hours it went like a breeze. I actually think their production value from what I could see in stadium, like with all the fireworks, the spectacle of that was beautiful
fantastic
to watch. I thought that the entrances, the special music that was given for a lot of the superstars, I thought there was real thought and effort that went into this show. And hopefully go and watch it back. I hope to have that same feeling watching it back. But from a stadium experience, from being inside there, like you say, from the ticket price of admission as well, we're not saying like we didn't spend $300-$400 to go and watch this show. We spent a very reasonable amount of money to go and sit and watch a fantastic wrestling show.
Cost of a night out with your wife for a meal. Do you know what I mean? It's like not that expensive at all.
No,
unless your wife's got expensive taste, that is.
Well, if she likes lobster, you're in trouble. But I mean, at the same time, you can see where we're going with, like, 50 UK pounds for a ticket of where we sat and we watched. Yes, there was much more expensive tickets available, but those were the ones that we got. And we could see just fine, and we had a great time watching it. And I've got to say, the big announcement made after the show that it'll be returning next year, I mean, it already gets you thinking, planning, and hoping they can do the same thing in 12 months. So you start thinking, I mean, for me, the big thing is seeing the wrestlers that you think you've never seen before. Now you start thinking, would someone like a Bryan Danielson be back in action by that point? Is more people, is a Mercedes Moné who was sitting in the crowd going to be involved?
And who from WWE may possibly be there? Because, some of them are possibly leave, possibly get released. Who knows? Certain Drew Galloway might show up on next year's show. He might win a major title in the UK. Who knows?
Who knows? Maybe a CM Punk may not be with AEW. Maybe he will be. Or maybe MJF has defected to the WWE. You don't know of what can happen, but certainly it gets you excited with the prospects of what could happen. But one thing's for sure, hopefully next time there is a Jamie Hayter in the house, a Bryan Danielson, and a Pac.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, I think unfortunate for them, but there's always next year.
There is. And now that is a reality, there is always next year. Eric Douglas in the house, thank you for checking this out, Eric. This is my 5 dream matches for Mercedes: Tony Storm, Ember Moon, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, and obviously Jade Cargill. But also forgot Saraya, so 6 in total for Eric there. Got to say, would like to see all of those matches personally. I think it'd be fun to see. And if I think Mercedes, it feels like it's when, not if, she'll be with the AEW roster. You don't just sit her there and put her on camera if there's not perhaps something in place. But is there anything you'd like to say before we wrap things up? We're on the hour mark now.
I'll tell you what, you need to kangaroo kick the subscribe button. You need to double clothesline the like button, and you just need to share. All right, I can't remember what the third one was, but you need to do that as well.
Do all the things. all of the things, and those
All of
things
them.
help this channel grow. And of course, if you've not seen the WWE payback predictions that were done earlier this evening, that video is on the channel right now. In fact, that stream actually went at a reasonable period that allowed us to do this stream tonight. And of course, if you're interested in all out predictions, they'll be on the channel later this week as well. Got one last question from Default before we do leave. Do we think Mox will win the International Championship at All Out? I'm assuming the match will be against Orange Cassidy. I'm going to say a simple yes.
Yes, I think it's a very good chance.
I think it's time for Orange Cassidy to drop the championship. It's been great with the title, and I think that I think the dynamic of Mox and Orange Cassidy in a singles match as well could actually be one of those, like Pac and Orange Cassidy could actually have a match of the year candidate written on it, which you don't expect to see coming. It could be a lot of fun to see, but yeah, all in all, I think it was great. I'm going to say before we leave the stream, NXSteve, it was a pleasure to see you in London. I'm a little bit jealous, though. You got home a lot earlier than me. Just say NXSteve got out of there, managed to get home within an hour. It took me 2 hours to get home. I got stuck in the crowd.
I had less stairs to traverse on the way out than you did.
That is true, and I may have stopped past the merch stand on the way as well. I needed I was there t-shirt. I needed one of those. So yeah, I ended up doing that, and of course that meant after that we were stuck amongst people for nearly an hour. But thankfully, a lot of good chants from the crowd on the route to the train station, whether it was singing Fozzy Judas. In fact, one of the people actually with the megaphones actually was playing it through their phone. They did start with Sweet Caroline, awesome. And he got booed heavily for playing Sweet Caroline, which was quite fun. But yeah, but Fozzy was very well welcomed. But and of course, a lot of the whole world in his hands as well, which of course a lot of tributes and good thoughts of Bray Wyatt. But yeah, that's pretty much all from us anyway. Like you say, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to well, why not super kick the like button, maybe a shatter machine on the subscribe button, and while you're at it as well, maybe you can do with Osprey's Stormbreaker to share it
and
with
ring
friend.
the bell, ding ding ding.
All those simple things, and you can be involved in watching more videos on this channel, because 50% of you that are watching these are not actually subscribed right now, believe it or not. But if you are watching on delay, then thank you for taking the time out to do so. If you've been watching this live, big thank you to all of you, and in the chat as well. You are pretty much the backbone of this channel and keep it going strong each and every time. So thank you all so much. And a big thank you to NXSteve as well. And as I say, pleasure to see you in London. James from This Week in Metropolis, go and check out This Week in Metropolis. They'll be back doing their content very soon on their channel. They've got some great episodes on their channel in the meantime, so go and support them, and you get to see my best friend James, the best man at my wedding, doing his thing on YouTube as well. But that's all from us anyway. Take care, look after yourselves and each other. This has been the live experience review and reaction for AEW All In 2023 at London's Wembley Stadium.